As ESR starts its 5th season of GT3 racing, we open a new series of touring car racing. 3 manufacturers and 10 circuits from across Europe and the US. Here's a little bit of what to expect in this upcoming season here at Evolution Sim Racing TCR Season 1. Good evening everyone, and welcome back to the penultimate round of the Evolution Sim Racing Touring Car Championship here at the world famous Hockenheimring. Sitting close to the western border of Germany, we and the drivers find ourselves at this 4.5 kilometer circuit. 16 very particular corners, some more complex than others, with some high speed corners in both directions, a few slow speed hairpins, and of course that very tricky stadium section. My name is Joseph Glass, and as always, I'm delighted to join you all as we look ahead to the session this evening in our usual format. A 15-minute closed qualifying session followed promptly by our 3 20-minute sprint races as the drivers battle it out for the remaining championship points before we commence the final round of the championship, setting the scene for what promises to be an entertaining closing round when we head to Portimao this time next week. So we're excited to get going. We've got this week and we've got next week, and before we head to trackside for any of that action, let's take a look, as always, at the sponsors of this series. So first up, it's Kame, the home and building automation experts, providing integrated high-tech solutions for private homes, public venues and urban spaces. The GP2 Group, a management consultancy firm specialising in business acquisitions, property management and development. AB Designs, bespoke sim racing liveries designed to your specification across all the leading sim racing titles, including iRacing, NACC, and GitGood, offering coaching and guidance via a new online self-paced learning package which is accessible, in-depth and effective. So if you're trying to improve your iRating, then be sure to get in touch, and the links for all of these are available in the ESR Discord server. And as always, let's take a look at the showcase for GitGood, and let's hear directly from Marianne himself.
Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out getgoodracing.com. I've coached hundreds of drivers, from real-life racers to sim enthusiasts, who experience rapid improvement after just one session. And while investing in top-notch hardware is great, imagine how much more you can elevate your experience by adding coaching to the mix. My methods are practical, aiming to break down complex concepts into easily digestible bits that are simple to understand. You can find reviews of the sessions I've conducted on the Fiverr link provided in the video description. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGood course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together.
Okie dokie then, so we are back once again. It's the penultimate round here at the Hockenheimring. The drivers now only have 6 rounds remaining to get as many points in for themselves and their teams as they can before the season comes to a close. We see, as always, Wojtek Swiatovic has led the way pretty much from the first round, and as I always say, that record speaks for itself. 1 point away from 900 championship points, and he's got plenty of rounds left to try and score just one more. Something tells me he'll probably do that. Matheus Penttila, close in behind, 59 points, which is actually the closest that we have for either of the championships here this season. Should I say? I was going to say this evening. Here this season. 840 points for the Finn and a hat-trick of P2s this time last week, unable to beat Wojtek. However, Luke Lucchesi still hanging on to that 3rd place, and he's got a very comfortable margin. Something doesn't quite add up with those tallies. Something a bit more than 12 points, it looks like, the gap from 715 to 840. But nonetheless, he has a huge gap down to Jeremy Chioka. Best part of 150 points. So that P3 for Luke is all but said and done. And I don't think there's any way for Jeremy really to dislodge him from that position. Johan Furey has had a good week. He moved himself up from P8 in the championship and now puts himself up into the top 5 on 560 points. He was the winner in the consolation race this time last week. Beneficiary of that reverse grid. While Wojtek was stuck down there in P5, he led Penttila all the way to the line and brought home his 3rd win of the season. So a very good result for Johan Furey there. Jan Stichbury holds on to P6 with only 2 podiums to his name, so very consistent results outside of the podiums. He sits on 555 points, only 5 away from the top 5. That was a lot of 5s. Duncan Kirby, unfortunate for him, he missed the last round and he had a bit of an unfortunate time at the end of what would have been the Imola circuit. He drops down from P4 into P7. Still well within the top 10, and again, it would probably take a lot to dislodge what has been a good season for him overall. He's got 2 race wins to his name. We remember back to Daytona when he crossed the line by 8 1,000ths of a second to beat, and possibly Matheus actually, but I don't remember exactly. Jimmy Vyman, he's moved down 1 place as well. A DNF for him in the opening round last week sees him drop from P7 down to P8, and James Holman goes from P10 up into P9, and he now has a nice gap of 38 points to Ryan Ottens, who has actually dropped. So James and Ryan have swapped positions. A P7 in the feature for Ryan last week, but only a P12 and a 13 in the opening races. So he'll be looking to get himself back into that top 5, which we know he can. Paul Cowlishaw and Matt Hoyland staying where they are. They currently round out the top 12. However, those points looking like it's going to become increasingly more difficult for them to get themselves one of those driver trophies come the end of the season, which is nearly upon us, to get into that top 10. As for the AM standings then, James Howarth continues to lead the way, and James Bostock, who's not with us this evening, 71 points, the difference behind James Howarth. However, I'm pretty sure that James Howarth will not be with us next week, which cannot count toward a drop round. So interestingly, James Howarth having not missed a round all season, his drop rounds will, well, I'm going to have a quick scan there, and perhaps his drop round will be round 3, but then he will not be able to drop the final round, meaning that he will also drop his 2nd worst result. James Bostock, however, because he missed the opening round and tonight's round, he will actually drop no points because he will drop both of those blank rounds, meaning that he will in some way keep a hold of a few more of those points, which could help to close the race ever so slightly, especially, as I say, with Howarth being unavailable next week. So I'm sure James will be hoping for a handful of victories. Again, still waiting for somebody to get a hold of that hat-trick after Mr. Bostock did it around Brands Hatch in the second round, his debut in TCR. Rob Smith still hanging on to third place. However, Max Nevincharny, who's been, as we said, slowly moving up the ranks. Max only 23 points behind Rob Smith in the flatline car, but that form for Rob speaks for itself. A handful of P2s and a P1 last week. But Max, he's moved from, let's say, 10th into 7th into 5th, and now he's into 4th. So again, a man in form. Bad news for this man though. Andrew Fellows, who's been a great member of this championship, he led and then he got himself into the top 3 and then P4 and now P5. And I'm thinking now, do I see him here tonight? Yes, he is with us tonight. So Andrew will have another stab at it to try and keep up with Mr. Nevincharny, but the points slowly falling away. 36 points the difference between Andrew and Max. Oliver Lumsden, he had a great time last week, starting from the back of the grid with that qualifying ban. A P7, a P3 and a P2 sees him promoted from P10 all the way up into the top 6. So he was on the border about getting that top 10. All of a sudden, he's lodged himself firmly in there. It does show, however, how close that top 10 is. I'm looking now from him down to Rob Mackay. There's only 40 points separating those positions, so plenty on offer for sure. In P7, Robin Aston, he's only 1 point behind Oliver Lumsden. With Hussein Sarakadesla in the Honda, he's sat in P8, I think, for quite some time. From memory, he's probably spent the last month at least in P8, so he will probably hang on to that, unless Daniel Saunders has anything to say about it. He's the third flatline car there in P3, P9 and P6, all three of the flatline drivers. Daniel's on 523 points, just ahead by 9 points of Rob Mackay. So Rob will be looking to cling on to that position to get his hands on a trophy. However, we'll soon see when we go to the next slide that the likes of Newton and Hussein need a good result for their team tonight. Dennis Collar still in there. He prompted himself up into the top 12 a couple of weeks ago, and so far the Dutchman has done well to hang on to that position. Now we'll look at the teams. For the first time in a long time, the Suma GP2 Honda team no longer stand at the top of the team's championship. That's what I alluded to earlier. It's the RD Sim Sports group of Matthias Penteler, James Holman and Rob Sutherland who are now leading the charge. 53 points separating P1 to P2. And with Bostock away this evening, it's all eyes on Hussein and Gareth to see if they can bring home some strong points to put a challenge on Penteler, Holman and Sutherland. And I believe it's actually just Sutherland and Penteler who are here. Sorry, Sutherland and Holman who are here tonight. I don't see Matthias or Svidovic, actually. I don't see either of the championship leaders. So is it tonight going to be a night for Luke Lucchese to get his hands on a top step of the podium? Something that he's been unable to do, actually, all season. Anyway, back to where we were. Flatline, hang on to P3. And as we said, those drivers in some top form. So I'm sure they will continue. And they're only 12 or 13 points away from the Suma Honda team. So those guys really in with a good chance of claiming that P2 spot. And I'll tell you what, the championship is not over yet for the flatline team. DXT Audi next up with Hoyland, Howarth and Brandy. They're still going strong, but it'll be quite an ask to get back into the top 3, I reckon, unless something happens to the guys in front. We've been talking about this two-man army for quite a while, and still they are yet to be dislodged, and something tells me that they will cling on to that. The G-League drivers of Jeremy Choker and Jimmy Vyman putting up a great effort throughout this entire season. And as we said, the only two-man army who've been in the top 5 for most of the season. It's RDSA, Suma GP2 Hyundai and DXT Honda in the top 8, with Octane and MRC the top 10. And then again we see BRD down there, but only on 100 points, so 10 times the amount of points separating P6 down to P11. So really, those guys are well out of the running. And a very quick look at the incident ratings. We see Wojtek, Yayan and Penteler still leading the way, eligible for the driver trophy, and Wojtek winning the championship in a very clean fashion. Robert Aston, Nevin Charney and Andrew Fellows the same in the AM class. Those guys doing very well as well, but Newton and Holman might have something to say about that. So then, just in time for the end of the practice session, we didn't get a chance to take a look at the finishing order of that session, but nonetheless, let's now focus our eyes on the qualifying run. We have eyes on Mr. Danny Weir, who is the first man out onto the circuit, and he makes his way around the Hockenheimring, and we'll ride on with a few of these guys as they go. So the usual format, as always tonight, it will be a 15-minute closed qualifying session, allowing the drivers up to 4 laps to set their fastest times, and that order will determine the starting grid for the opening Heat 1 race tonight. Following that, we'll reverse the top 10 from the finishing order ahead of the consolation race, which will see P10 in the first race start on pole position in the second before we head to the feature, which will reverse the top 15 of the consolation race, putting the man who finishes first all the way down in P15, which will make for some very entertaining battles as we've seen throughout the whole season. These guys really doing well. Plenty of incidents, but that's kind of the nature of these cars. And I think it really adds a good element when we see the top 15 reversed and they go and battle away. Heavy over the sausage curb there by Weir. And he'll be one of the first to cross the line. Fixed setups and standing starts. Dry throughout, as we know, through this season with 14x for a drive-through and 20x for a disqualification. And now Danny heads through the fast chicane of 13 and 14. The slow, well, I'd say medium speed right-hander actually, before the pit entry of 15. And let's see how Danny gets on as he crosses the line to set what will be the first time on the board. Braking just before the 50, and you want to take a lot of that inside curve and run it wide. Want to get a banker lap in first. They've run now down toward turn 2. Lots of time to think about it and prick your braking point just before the 100 metre board, getting it down the gears. Keeps it in second. And on the power through 3 and 4. And now quite a long run down through the parabolica in these cars. What is the kink at turn 5 before the very, very slow speed hairpin, full 90-degree corner. He's eyeing up his braking boards. Let's see where he chooses. Maybe just before the 100. Yep, about 120 metres. Braking down. I'm sure some guys will drop it into first gear there. And Danny back on the power. Is this going to be flat? Turn 7. Easy flat, upshift on the way through. Could have run it a little bit more wide. Now braking down for turn 8, which comes at you quite aggressively. The corner cuts at you quite aggressively. Through 8, 9, and over the curbs at 10. For a short run to the Mobile 1, turn 11. Got to get it right up against that wall before you flick it in. Down the gears, careful not to run too wide, not to dip a tyre in the gravel. P12, P12, turn 12. Up over, running it wide there on the right, cutting 13, 14. Now 15, Danny choosing not to use all of the track available on the left-hand side there. And he almost treats that as though it was one corner. He didn't ever straighten the wheel out, and he keeps it going flat across the floor. And that should be a valid lap time for Danny Weir. Yes, it is, and his teammate, Francois Brandet, does well to put it ahead. And it's Johan Ferry at the front of the timing sheets at the moment with a 1:48.9, the first driver into the 48. Quite a small grid here tonight, I think less than 25 drivers, and as I said, interestingly, no Svidovic or Pentala, so it could have been all said and done, and particularly thinking if Pentala could have made it, he really could have put pressure on Svidovic right before the end of the championship, but that really does open the door for some of these guys who maybe haven't had a chance to get themselves on the top step of the podium yet this season. Thinking the likes of Lucchese will be rubbing his hands together at the thought of a strong finish. And Luke has just set that lap time currently, only good enough for P4. Nearly 6/10 away from this man, Johan Furi. Chioka now, sharing a similar piece of track to Johan Furi as he comes through down past turn 10 and now through 11. Running wide on the exit as you would. Now through this high-speed chicane. Come at you very quick, and he too keeps it quite close to the middle of the track. Just straighten out before the final corner. Cutting a lot of that curb, and he has set a purple middle sector, has Jeremy. Let's see, is it going to get him onto the second row of the grid? Yes, it is. It's the front of the second row, 4.5 tenths behind Johan Furi. Paul Cowlishaw setting his lap time, and Ryan Otten's improving as well. James Howarth is going to be next to cross the line. He's currently on provisional pole in the AM class and sets a time just half a tenth slower than his opening lap. Only uses a lot of sausage there. The two right side tyres coming off the track, and he's only half a tenth ahead of Hussein Sadagadesla. So as we alluded to, it's the likes of he and Gareth that need to have a strong performance tonight. And Huss doing well and doing what he needs to do so far. Max Devanchani round the final corner. He's currently in P4. He needs to find half a second if he's going to get anywhere near Howarth. And it is an improvement. He's now only 2.5 tenths behind, a 1:59.0 for Max. Jeremy Chioka is again up, I think, in the middle sector. This is where we caught him last time. We'll catch him again as he heads through turn 11. Francois setting a purple sector 1 in the AM class, and he's all the way down there in P8. So that could be an improved time. That might see him get into the top 6. We'll keep our eyes on Francois, who is about at the same point, actually, as Jeremy Chioka, who is not improving. Here is Brande, though. Let's see, is this going to be an improvement? Potentially into the top 6. Wayne Douglas setting the fastest Sector 1 time up in the Pro class. He's currently in provisional P2. And Francois does improve. It's a 51.7, but not enough to move up positions. Ryan Ottens dislodges Paul Cowlishaw out of the top 7. And James Howarth again next to cross the line. Is it going to be another improvement after his first lap? No, it's not. It's another 10th down. So James can't quite improve from that first time, and it'll be becoming a little bit desperate now as he sets away on his final lap. Hussein in the pit lane. So it's now over to the likes of Collar to see if they can improve, which he does, and he's 8/1000ths away from the provisional pole time in the AM class, displacing Huss, who is finished for tonight. He only took part in 3 laps. And let's keep our eyes on Dennis to see if he can take James away from the top step. Or from the, sorry, not top step, we're not there yet. The front row of the grid. Mr. Jan Stitchbury across the line. He hasn't improved. And he still holds on to P6. And Andrew Fellows there up into P7 in the AM class. Here's Francois as he heads through 13-14. Chioka and Furi both improving their times. The two drivers within the top 4. Willem Boyter the same. Currently down there in P9. And unfortunately for Francois, no improvement there. However, Johan Furi does set the fastest lap time of the session, a 48.916, and that will be him done. Oh, that's a new livery for Wayne. Absolutely a big fan of that. Wayne now across the line. It's now on ever. 2.5 tenths. Is it going to be enough? James Howarth does improve on his final lap. It's a 50.4. And it doesn't look like that's an improvement for Wayne. Luke Lucchese, he's got an opportunity perhaps. He's improved his personal best time in the middle sector. Let's see how he handles the final few corners here. And he exits the final corner. Can Luke get himself into the top 2 rows of the grid? He's only a tenth away from that. And he does. He gets himself up into P3. That will be Lucchese. Said and done. Mr. Ian Stitchbury, does he have anything to say about that? It will probably need a big effort, and something tells me the fact that he slowed down so soon that he hasn't improved, and he has not. Dennis Collar, the next man to finish his lap. That's right on board, because he will be the final man to finish the session with 4 minutes to go. Then it's Johan Free who takes pole position in the Pro Division. And it's James Howarth 3.5 tenths away from Dennis Collar. So in the end, that improved 4th and final lap for Howarth was enough. And he's dislodged Collar, who would have been very optimistic, having set a lap time only 8 1,000ths of a second clear. But now James has put his mark down once again, and it's a 50.4 to a 50.7. And what's probably a 50.8 actually for Dennis. Into the stadium section here for Collar. He is up and he's ran wide. That could be an invalid lap. He's going to finish it though, so maybe not. Purple sector in the middle sector in his class. Something tells me that it's not going to be enough to gain nearly that 4/10 margin that he would need. A clean final corner though, and you never know. Here he comes then, Dennis Collar. Is he going to make a change? Is he going to take will he take pole position in the AM class? Something tells me no, but it's an improved time, a 1:50.7. 2 tenths off the back of Howarth. Just there, a big gap. Similar times actually between the two pole sitters. I believe that is going to be everything. Paul still flying, getting some extra lap times in. This obviously won't count toward his qualifying, but still running nonetheless to get all the practice in that he can get ahead of the session tonight. That gravel really is going to catch a lot of the drivers out tonight. And it's very easy to, if you go side by side through that corner, very easy to run the other guy wide. Let's hope nobody drops the rear into the gravel and comes back across the circuit. Really maximising the track limits there, which would have been valid coming out the final corner, I'm sure. Owen Seward actually the only man not to set a lap, so he is also in the session, but just not on the timing sheets. And I'm quite excited, frankly, to not that we don't want Wojtek or Mateusz to be here, but it will be very interesting to see how these guys get on when those two aren't on the track. And it's eyes on the likes of Lucchese, who's yet to get his hands on a win. So fruitful in GT3 throughout the last 3 or 4 seasons, but he hasn't managed a top step throughout the entirety of his ESR TCR career. So could tonight be the night? 1 minute to go then, before the drivers prepare themselves for the Heat 1 race. I'm a big fan of this track, actually. I said last week to Mr. Draycott that I didn't think I'd driven here before, and then when I checked, Turns out I actually have only once. And it's not a track that I'm awfully familiar with, hence not even remembering that I raced here. But yeah, some very, very enticing corners, I guess you could say. Corners where you look at them and think, yes, I'm going to carry so much speed through there, and then the talent quickly catches up with you, and you realise that you aren't quite as good as you think you are. And it'll be interesting to see how the temperature of the tyres affects the guys as they're flying through things like turn 1, turn 7, turn 11. Seeing how much grip they can bring throughout the whole session tonight. Let's take a look at the grid then, ahead of the race this evening. So Johan Furey starts on the front row of the grid, sharing that with Mr. Wayne Douglas. Luke Lucchese for RDSA Esports in P3 with James Holman in P4. It's Jeremy Chioka in P5 with Jan Stitchbury in P6. Jimmy Vyman, Ryan Ottens, Paul Cowlishaw and Willem Boyter, the top 10, with Carl Jacquelet, Rob Sutherland, the top 12 before we reach the AM class, with James Howarth starting at the front of his field, followed by Dennis Collar, Hussein Sadaka-Desla, Max Devanchani and Oliver Lumsden, the top 5 in P17. Steve Rubino, Andrew Fellows and Danny Weir next up, with Gareth Newton, Francois Brandet and Rob Mackay finishing off the finishers, with Owen Seward rounding off the top 24 on the grid tonight for Aura Motorsports. So, not long until lights out for these guys, and it will be Johan Furey in that black monster livery to get us underway, closely followed by Wayne Douglas in that new purple and blue looking livery. Very nice, very good. Final few drivers gridding up now. We're still waiting for Mr. Mackay and Mr. Seward. Mackay is in. The driver's getting impatient now. They've been held for quite some time, nearly 2 minutes taken off the grid. But here we go then. The lights will be on and we'll soon be underway for the penultimate round here at the Hockenheimring. Johan Furey gets us underway and he'll be closely followed by Luke Lucchese. That's James Holman with a great start down there in P4, but he comes to cover him off, does Wayne Douglas looking further back. Max Devanchine defending against a flatline car, but Johan Furey gets away well and leads going through into turn 1. And it looks like all the guys toward the front have kept those positions. There goes Carl, looking to go around the outside, and Willem Boyter there nearly stuck his nose up the inside of Cowlishaw, and then Cowlishaw does the same in behind. Danny Weir has had an incident, and there goes Willem Boyter, almost on cue, slap bang into the back of the tyre barrier. And here's Devanchani, who's continuing on his merry way. Now back at the front, a little bit of pressure. Johan Furey has to defend the inside line to Wayne Douglas, which might allow him to get a good exit now as they all head through turns 6 for the first time. Look at them all slow through there. Has everybody got through okay? It looks as though they have. There's a spinner at the back. It's Willem Boyter again, and he's gone careering into the wall. Same side that took the impact the last time, and it's happened again. When Douglas now setting his sights on Johan Furey through turn 11. All the pressure in the opening lap. They've got to find their feet. Some differing lines there between the two of them. So, after the opening lap then, Johan Furey maintains that pole position, close to Wayne Douglas and Luke Lucchese now, half a second off the back of these guys. James Howarth already 1.6 seconds clear of the nearest AM rival there in Hussein Sadaka-Desla. The lap times are coming in now. Great start by Wayne and Johan at the front. Down here it's Mackay getting passed by his teammate Danny Weir, who actually Oh, it's Francois Brandet, sorry. Danny had a crash, which is why I was confused how he was getting the overtake done. And you can see him there just entering a picture and now leaving the picture as these two DXT machines are battling for position. And Francois has to run awfully wide there to avoid his teammate. Jan Stitchbury has got a car very close for company. And that is Jimmy Vyman, who steps to the outside. And Jan thinks about it on his teammate, who sees him coming, and he checks up at the apex there, Jan. He has no choice but to do that, really. Defended in the end by Mr. Stitchbury, and now look at this, Luke Lucchese putting all sorts of pressure on Wayne Douglas. Let's see from the onboard of Lucchese as they head through the stadium section for the second time. Oh, and it's a spin. He has held it, but that's going to allow Lucchese through. And now Holman thinks about this as well. Could it be 2 positions lost? He's going to maybe dive him. No, he's not. He's going to stay where he is. James Holman, and that just helps Johan Fourie extend that margin at the front, but Lucchese will now be setting his eyes ahead on what could be a strong result, but he's dipped a tyre in the gravel there. That's going to upset the run ever so slightly, but probably not enough for Wayne to think about a move. No, it's not. Dennis Collar close in behind Steve Rubino now. Let's take it to turn 1. Is that an incident ahead? No. Maybe just someone bashing the suspension over that sausage curb. So incidents for Weir and Boiter at the start. We saw Willem's incident, well, 2 actually. Quite a few battles to talk about. Jan still in this G League sandwich, and he's got Jimmy Vyman for company, who again, same as we saw last lap, thinks about going down the inside. Jan defends the middle of the track very well and forces him to go the long way around, and he's unable to make it stick. Paul Cowlishaw, however, in this next group, going alongside Ryan Ottens. And he forces Ottens to the inside line, and Paul looking to think about going around the outside. Now he's going to go to the outside line again. And Ryan defends that well, the Alpha 1 esports driver. Good space ahead of Ryan, and Paul just dropping back ever so slightly. Luke Lucchese got past Wayne. Let's see how he did that. Oh no, sorry, that was earlier. I thought I was seeing a replay for Johan Fourie there. Now Sutherland out of class, putting pressure on the lead driver James Howarth, as that's the fastest lap of his class. And what's happened there? There's been an incident at the front. Johan Fourie has given that lead up to Luke Lucchese. Let's see how that happened. Was it a mistake ahead? Oh, he's on the brakes. Is Johan? I'm not sure. Has he got damage? Or a slowdown, maybe? I'm not sure. Did he run too wide or cut too much of that inside curve, perhaps? And that's caused him to lose some position. So as we said, Luke Lucchese could have capitalised on the vacant Svelidovic and Pensela. And at the moment, he's doing exactly that. It's Chioka now side by side with Wayne Douglas down there. Room left by the pair of them. Lumsden, Fellows, Rubino all swapping places. Yayan up the inside. Still doing well to hold off Jimmy Vyman in behind. Johan Fourie has got past James Holman in the end, and an aggressive cut across the track there by Douglas to defend against Chioka. Another wide entry, and it's another mistake in the same corner by Wayne Douglas. He concedes yet another position, and that could open the door to these drivers in behind. Yain could think about it while Wayne is a little bit shaken up after that one. You'd think you would compensate, maybe slow down ever so slightly going through that corner if you'd already lost P2 in that way. But now Wayne down there in P5. It must have been a slowdown for Johan, who has improved that deficit ever so slightly. Not as bad. Is it going to be a send? No, it's not. He backs out. Just forces Yain offline ever so slightly. But yeah, Johan must have got a slowdown, either coming across the inside curb or running too wide on the outside curb, because he just slammed the brakes on in a straight line, which, to be honest, probably not the best way to do it, because that will just scare people up ahead. But in the end, everybody got through okay. And once again, look at this. Coming across, it's Jimmy Vyman to defend against Ryan Ottens, but instead, this time, Ryan says, well, I'm just going to slide on in there. And he almost got the move done on Yain as well, but not this time. That's a position gained for Ryan Ottens now, up into P7. And Wayne Douglas under pressure still from Jeremy Chioka, who's got the inside line. They go side by side, and Wayne does very well to carry the speed around the outside there. And he's retaken that position. However, the G-League car is not going to give up that position just yet. As these guys head side by side through turn 11, and Wayne does hang on to it, but has Jeremy got the run? Yes, he has. He's just got ahead, but again, Wayne's going to have the inside line, forcing Jeremy around the outside this time. They do come together ever so slightly. Room will be left still side by side, and Jeremy's not going to back out of this one. Now on the inside is Jeremy. These guys exchanging the inside and the outside lines at every corner. Chioka still hanging on to it, and they're still side by side. And I think Wayne has just got ahead. Yes, he has, and he comes back in front of Jeremy. What a great piece of driving there. And this pack down from Wayne to Ottens, even Vyman, very, very close indeed. And Johan Ferry all over the back of Luc Lucchesi. So a lot on offer for the pro drivers at the moment. Less, unfortunately, on offer for the AM drivers. James Howarth 1.6 seconds clear of Hussein Sarakadesla, who's over a second clear from Neven Charney, who's 4 seconds from Collar and nearly 2.5 seconds from Rubino. So not much happening down there in the AM class. All eyes on the pro class for now, unless Oliver Lumsden fancies a move on Steve Rubino and Andrew Fellows, actually gaining on Gareth Newton ahead. Look at this pack as they head through the hairpin. Really, really difficult to get it slowed down. They're all sharing that track quite well, though. An absolutely great racing from the pair of them there, but all of them really. But to go side by side like that for a series of corners, very impressive by Chioka and Douglas. Respectful and clean. And Fellows now, side by side, Gareth Newton. Gareth with one eye on the team's championship, has to be careful, has to capitalise on as many points as he can. Fellows has the inside line, breaks later. Does Newton to afford the speed around the outside. It's done him well because he's got the inside line now. And now the run through turn 11. Fellows gets his nose ahead, and now he's a full car ahead before they reach the braking zone at turn 11. And that is Fellows up into P7. A great battle at the front for the top 3 places in the pro class, the top 3 races in the field. A nice gap of over 3.5 seconds down to Wayne Douglas. We have Lucchesi, Furry and Holman, who all fancy their chances at the top step of the podium tonight. And Furry actually setting the fastest lap time of the race, and going nearly 2/10 quicker than Lucchesi, who's gone off the road. He's made a mistake. Is that going to offer an opportunity for Johan to go up the inside? Yes, I think it is. And Luke, will he fight it around the outside? Surely he has to give it a go. And he has, and he's still in there as Lucchesi. Holman thinking about an opportunity if these two come together, which is exactly what they've done. And Lucchesi smashes over the sausage curb. And Holman's got an absolute run, but he's been boxed in there a little bit by Lucchesi. Johan Furi inherits the lead of the race, but Lucchesi has the inside line going into turn 11. Holman doesn't really know where he wants to put himself. Oh, and Holman has got the run. He might have the run on both of them. Is he going to stick it up the inside? No, he's not. Lucchesi now has to think about defending P2 instead of attacking P1. They're going to go side by side again. Are we going to see the cleanliness that we saw earlier? A little bit of a touch there. Not too bad from Lucchesi, who does hold on for now, but that'll have put a bit of a spring in the step of Holman, who smells the opportunity and nearly makes it happen. Holman there fancied a little bit more on the brakes than Lucchesi did. Thought about stepping out of line but didn't. And look at this, the distance between here. These guys sharing 3 or 4 tenths in the battle for the race lead. 6.5 minutes to go then, which is only another 4 or 5 laps, if that. And things are about to get interesting. The aggressive defence there by Johan Furi, who forces them all to the inside line. It's nearly 3 wide as they head into the hairpin. And I think they've got through there without making contact. Holman still in the same position that he found himself last lap, squirming in behind both of these cars to try and find the best line through. But both of them doing very, very well to keep him behind. Lucchesi's got the run, but at the outside line, we can't really take our eyes off this. I keep glancing up and down the timing sheets to see what's going on up and down the field, and not much apart from Carlos Shaw on Vyman. Lucchesi does lose that place temporarily, but he's on the inside line to Holman. He fights it. Room's left, but Holman gets that position made up, and he's now up into P3. So, is that normal service resumed from where we were at the start of the race? There was someone else up there, actually. It was one of the G Leagues, who I think started quite high up. But Johan inherits the lead once again, and Luke finds himself in P3, where he started the race. Let's just take a look at the positions gained to confirm that, yes, so Holman did indeed start down in P4, and it was Wayne Douglas there, who has clawed some time back, actually. It was over 3 seconds just a couple of laps ago, and while these guys battle on ahead, Wayne has managed to bring that time down. Unfortunately, the battle in behind has dissipated somewhat. To cut away from those guys momentarily so we can see what else is going on up and down the grid. And if you look at those times there, down in the AM class, nobody within a second of one another apart from Dennis Collar. Is Rob going to think about a move here on Carl? No, he sits in behind. And you can see there's James Howarth, the next man down. He's got a lovely, lovely gap, 7.2 seconds. All that needs to happen there is for him to keep it tidy. Take a look at what happened to Hussein, who had a moment off the track. Is this going through turn 11? Yes, it is. Oh, and he just loses the car, and Max just, well, not much that Max could do about that. Does give him a little bit of a helping round, but nothing at all that Max can do about that. Let's see from the perspective of Nevin Charney. Huss is all clean and tidy, then all of a sudden it goes, then he snaps. And Max just gets on the brakes. He might have a little bit of damage at the front there. But that is Hussein plummeting down the order. And he's now all the way down there in P9. So disaster for the Sumo guys as things stand, a P7 and a P9. Not what they want to see. The RD Sim Sports guys, who would that be again? Remind me. That is Sutherland and Holman. So Holman bringing home some very, very good points currently in P2, battling for the race win. And then Sutherland down there in P11. So an incident for Holman here, battling for this win, could reduce some of the deficit that the Suma guys now face. Let's watch these two guys battling ahead. Holman and Ferrari from the perspective of Lucchesi. And as it stands, with 2 minutes to go, the top 10 will be at the moment all of the pro drivers apart from Sutherland. But Howarth will be too far away to get himself up into that reverse grid, which, to be honest, will probably do him well. He's got the pace over Nevan Charney, I think. And he wouldn't want to cost himself some damage, perhaps, by getting spun around by some of the faster drivers. So he just has to keep it nice and steady for the rest of the evening. Bit of a wobble there by Ferrari, it looked like. Not enough to upset things too much. 2 minutes to go. Aggressive by Ferrari, who defends the inside line again. As they head through turn 1, Lucchesi's going to get the run there, look at that. Great launch over the curb, as Ferrari was too busy defending Holman. Lucchesi's going to try it around the outside. He's a little bit boxed in, can't go too late on the brakes. And he gets that almost nailed on. Is he going to still be up the inside? Yes, he is. Holman has to concede the position. Lucchesi will be on the outside unless he can get a car in front. A car length in front to swoop. No, he's not, so he's going to have to go around the long way as they head through the Parabolica. At turn 5. And Wayne, look at that. He's really reduced that deficit. It was 3 seconds a matter of laps ago. And this could be the white flag, actually. This could well be the white flag. I'm just going to quickly cut to Huss. See, do we have it out? I didn't... Yes, it is. It is the white flag. So this is the final lap. And we're all eyes on the battle for what will be P2 and P3. It looks like Johan Ferrari is going to do enough. He's only got a matter of corners to go as he goes through turn 10. He's got 11 through 16, and that's Holman in the wall. Lucchesi's just put Holman in the wall. Or was it Douglas? I don't want to cast judgment too soon. I didn't actually see. But it would make sense for that to have been Lucchesi. And just as we said, the RD Sim Sports driver going so well, and now he's out of the race. Bostock will be enjoying, well, not enjoying that, you know, not like that, but he'll be thinking, right, it's still on with his two drivers still in the race, although not too many points coming the way of Newton and Sarika Desler. Johan Ferrari, who took pole position, it's been a challenge, but he does come across the line first, and he does win the opening round here at Hockenheim. Luke Lucchesi still unable to get that P1 finish. And Wayne Douglas, you were absolutely right there, Jay. Wayne was licking his lips as the time came down and came down and came down, and he got himself up on the podium. Here's James Howarth, who does exactly what he set out to do. 8 seconds, nearly 9 seconds down to Max Nevan Charney, who comes across the line in P2. And Steve Rubino, a great result for Steve Rubino. I'm not sure if he's had a podium finish so far this season, so a sensational race there by Steve Rubino. I do want to go back and try and see what happened to Holman. This will be it here. Let's see. Is it here? No, it's not. Here, this will be the one. Yeah, he just doesn't, he just comes back across Lucchesi. Ever so slightly, I think. Yeah, and it's a little bit of neck code. He just got sucked in before it's too, before it should have happened. But, and he thought about it there. Wayne thought, well, I might just go for the double overtake here. Wow. What a finish that was then. So Johan Ferrari does come across the line first, and just in time then, we can review the standings. It's going to be pretty close, as it normally is. But that's okay. Guys already gridding up. So Johan Ferrari, Luke Lucchesi and Wayne Douglas, your podium here in the Pro Class with Jeremy Choker and Jan Sitchbury, the top 5. James Holman, Jimmy Vyman, Paul Cowlishaw, the top 8, with Ryan Ottens in P9. A poor result for Ryan, actually. Carl Jackalop, the top 10, with Rob Sutherland and Willem Boyter, who made a mistake in the opening lap, down there in P12. These guys gridding up quicker than I wish they would. But a quick chance to go over the AM-class results before we get underway. James Howarth wins once again, nearly 9 seconds down to Max Devonchani. And Steve Rubino there, rounding off the podium. Dennis Collar and Oliver Lumsden in the top 5, with Andrew Fellows, Gareth Newton and Danny Weir at the top 8. Hussein Sadaka Desler and Rob Mackay in the top 10, with Francois Brandet finishing the race, and Owen Seward in P12, who was unable to finish. We're about to get the green lights. We have all the cars. And it's going to be Carl Jacquelat who gets us underway then. Let's watch it on from this angle, and we are away. Ryan Ottens would be optimistic of a lead, and look at that. Carl with a poor start. He's going to be down in 10th by the time they reach turn 1, and that is Ryan Ottens who leads Cowlishaw, who leads Vyman, and that they're going to have a crash. Surely. No, they didn't. Wow, they actually survived. I was convinced that Vyman and Holman were going to be spun around. Luke Lucchese, he's been put round by Douglas, who's put Carl in the wall. Lucchese's round, and he's going to rejoin in all sorts of pandemonium down there at the back. That's Willem Boyter, who has to go right around Carl. Crazy start there at the beginning, and disaster on for the pole man there. Carl, wow, he has gone from first to last in less than 2 corners, and you can see him down there just going side by side, these two. James Howarth as well with a problem, actually, so have to keep our eyes on that. Is there more drama here? Where's Lucchese in all of this? He is down there in P10. Oh, I don't want that, my mistake. Let's take a look at the positions gained then. So Howarth down 10 places. We'll have to see what happened to him. He probably got caught up in that melee in the stretch between turn 1 and turn 2. Yeah, what was quite a clean race has descended quickly into chaos at the opening corner. I'm not sure what's going to be the best angle to see all of that. Actually, there is an incident for Howarth, so we'll cut back to that in a moment. But for the time being then, it's Ryan Ottens who leads Paul Cowlishaw, closely followed by James Holman, Jan Stitchbury and Jimmy Vyman, the top 5 in the pro class. Luke Lucchese has just got past Rob Sutherland. And it's Steve Rubino who leads the AM class, and Andrew Fellows back up there in P2. It's been a while since we've said that. Oliver Lumsden also on the podium as things stand. Ryan Ottens comes across the line first then and sets away on the second lap. It's a 56.6 for the South African driver, and is this going to be a move potentially on Cowlishaw by Holman as they go into turn 2? Getting it slowed down, but Cowlishaw will be on the favoured inside line for this corner. And he'll have to get ahead, which he has if he wants to try and get back across. Is he going to try and get back across to defend? He wasn't able, so that's going to allow Holman the inside line. He's going to make it very difficult for him here, though. And Paul swoops back over to the outside line to look to swing around the outside. They all get it slowed down nicely. Well, let's go back and see what happened to James at the start of the race. Where is he? Oh, he just gets turned in on by Johan Ferry there. He does send a late move, and oh, it's very, very minor. Personally, would I send it on a pro driver there? Probably not. Ferry does theoretically turn on him, but it's one of those, and that sees him absolutely rocket down the order, and he's able to get on with it fairly quickly, but without a pit stop. That's really going to damage his race there. And then, let's see what happened to Carl. It's Wayne Douglas, I think, who clips him. It doesn't really show us very much. Maybe this one will show us a little bit more. Yeah, I think Loops maybe just turned into Carl, who's then been helped round by Wayne. Everybody slows down nicely, actually. Fair play to all these drivers who slow down very nicely under yellow flags and do not cause a secondary collision, which is exactly what you like to see. Oh, and Cowlishaw really under pressure still from Holman, all the while Ottens extending that lead at the top. We will keep an eye on the lap times of Howarth Last lap was 2 seconds quicker than Mackay. So Howarth really does have the pace. It's not over yet. He's still got 15 minutes to go. And there's Mr. Yain again, defending hard against the G League. He's been surrounded by those guys so far this evening. Cannot seem to get away at the moment. It's Weimann, and then it's Chioka. Howarth already making some moves. Let's see how we got this one done. Probably wouldn't have been too much defence. No, it's not there. Francois moves nicely out the way and lets his teammate through to set away on the next DXT machine of Mackay. In fact, he's got 2 DXT machines who probably won't put up too much of a fight against him on his fight back through the field. And he has just got past Rob Mackay, so he's now back up into the top 8. A little bit of an issue there for Cowlishaw, who's dropped off the back of Holman. And all of a sudden, this pack is back. It's Cowlishaw leads Yain, leading Weimann, Chioka and Johan Furi. And Lucchesi down there with Wayne Douglas. So the 3 drivers who finished on the podium currently sharing P7, 8 and 9, but not for much longer actually, because Furi has just got himself up past Jeremy Chioka and he is into the top 6. Howarth last lap time of 50.4, which is 1.5 seconds quicker than Newton ahead and 1 second quicker than Hussein ahead. So given this rate, oh, a bit of wheel spin there. I was looking at the timing sheets and Yain dropping a position by Furi. It's been a good lap for him so far and he might drop out a second position. Is Yain going to back out? Oh yes he is, just about. That might allow Lucchesi a half chance on the Aura Motorsports machine. I'll keep you all up to date with Howard's lap times, because as I said, he's a good second quicker than pretty much anybody. Half a second quicker than Evan Charney, just less than half a second quicker than Collar, and that's it. So he is at least 6/10 quicker a lap than the rest of the field. And let's just do that quick maths. Or someone else can do it for me, I guess. See how far he gets. Any predictions as to where he's going to finish? Hit me with them. Cowlishaw under pressure from Weimann for the final place on the podium. And this may be quite the ask, but one way that he can, that James can get himself up is to try and get into the top 15. Let's take a look. How far away is he from that? He needs to get 4 or 5 places. Not impossible, but quite a tough ask. And if he can do that, then what a result he will have. Luke Lucchesi, he's had a drama, and he's losing a handful of positions there. Let's see what happened. He made a move on Chioka. Defended Yain, who darts back across to the outside. Oh, and then he just gets contacted by Chioka. Let's see this one again. Just with the car ahead. There. Oh, so Chioka nearly runs. Oh, and Lucchesi does run very, very deep there. Chioka unsighted as he went onto the brakes in behind Furi, which meant he had to check himself up, and he went very wide and Lucchesi went very deep, and they met each other right at the apex. Weimann and Cowlishaw still going wheel to wheel out of the final corner. It's a tricky place to think about an overtake. He has got the speed, Vyman, but he'd be wise to wait until at least turn 2 on the brakes, and Cowlishaw does get the better run out of the corner. Oh, and there, Cowlishaw is at a slowdown. It must be. Cowlishaw then down the order. Vyman and Furry up 1 position each. Now on board with the AM-Class Championship leader. He's got Garth Newton as his next target. And he might fancy ascend into the hairpin at this rate. He's got the speed. He's gaining and gaining and gaining. Is it going to be enough? Is he going to be punchy? He's in the slipstream. You can see him gaining and gaining. He's going to have to move to the inside line eventually, which he does. And that's Howarth up another position. Unless Newton has anything to say about it. Gets it nice and slowed down. Very slow at the apex there, actually, Howarth. I think he maybe was a little bit too cautious about Newton coming back on the inside. But as they head now through turn 7, that's Howarth up into the top 7. So again, looking at that, James Howarth now only 2 positions away from that reverse grid slot. And he's got a massive, massive gap, so he can get some good lap times in now and make one final charge. Keep an eye on that 3.4 second gap. That could come down very quickly as the laps go on. And Hussein is his next target. And Max Nevenchani will be keen to hold on to that. In fact, look at this, the battle here for what is actually, is it a class win? Yes, it is, the class win here, look at that. 5 drivers, all of these guys from Fellows down there, even really Huss, but Max is really the one still in this pack. What's wide there by Collar. Lumsden might fancy a run here. Collar's going to have to defend the inside line, which he hasn't really done soon enough. And it's all eyes on the AM-Class this time. Nothing happening there in the opening race. It was all the pro guys. And now roles have reversed. It's a 1.5 second gap to P1 from Ottens to Holman, and then a 2.5 second gap to Furi. But the same can't be said for all the AM guys. Oh, is that contact or just a little... Yeah, I think that might have been Rubino just going ever so slightly wide over the sausage curb. And let's see what Mr. Nevenchani sees ahead. You can see the top step of the podium still through his windscreen. But it'll require a bit of a mistake, I'm sure, or coming together ahead if he's going to get that move done. Gap now from Howarth to Huss under 3 seconds. He's gained half a second in this lap alone. Nevenchani is going to go for it. No. And wide again there. Rubino under some serious pressure now. And Max knows that he's the quicker driver at the moment. Howarth previous lap time a 1:50.4, which is at least two tenths quicker than anyone else, but not the second that we were seeing earlier on. And at the moment, with that kind of lap time, he will not catch up to Hussein. But what he wants to see is these guys battling, so he can't have the likes of Nevenchani and Rubino letting the guys at the front get away. It's the battles like this that will see that gap close drastically. But this is still the place to be on track. Fellows will not want to give this up easily. It's been quite some time since he got himself on the top step of the podium. Nick Lucchese has just got past Jeremy Chioka, which promotes him up into P7. He got the run nicely there. Chioka perhaps with a slowdown, just moving out the way and letting Lucchese through. Here's Newton Mackay for P8 in class and just backs out of it at the right time. Good battle of mentality actually here between Fellows and Collar. I don't think Collar, has he won a race? Did he win at Imola, or was that just a podium? But Fellows will know that it's been a long time coming since he last got himself on the top step. I want to actually bring up that so I can give that information properly. Fact, wow, I did not know that Andrew has not won all season, so absolutely he will be all over this race victory. Dennis Collar did get one win, and it was around Imola. It was the feature race win as the flat line comes over to defend against Rubino. But from all the all the times that Fellows led the championship, he hadn't actually got himself a race win in this entire time. And he's got 4 minutes to stay ahead of the Dutchman Collar to make that a reality, and he'll be very satisfied with himself if he can get that done. A little bit squirmy there. As he headed through, I think, what's turn 8 and 9, and now out of 10. Very wide there by Lumsden, in behind. It's right on board with Dennis Collar. See what he sees as they head through the stadium section for the 8th time in this race. Newton and Mackay going side by side. It might be worth cutting to that actually, because they are still going wheel to wheel as they head around the final corner. But Newton does hang on to that position. Cowlishaw under pressure from Yain Stitchbury, who's under pressure even worse, even more so, by Luke Lucchese. RDSA versus Aura Motorsports. And is Luke going to move to the inside? Is Yain going to defend the inside? Yes, he is. All the way to the inside. And Luke late on the brakes. Cowlishaw with a little bit of a wobble there. Luke does what he has to do. And Yain just about comes out ahead, but is Lucchese actually... Yes, he is. Lucchese does have the run. Yain is going to still be in with a chance as they head through turn 11 now. Never mind, that's turn 7. Oh, and side by side the two drivers go. Luke Lucchese giving him just enough room. 2 minutes to go. Howarth just 1.8 seconds behind Huss, so he's not going to get that position unless something goes wrong for Hussein. Mr. Fellows still leading in the AM class. 2 minutes to go. It'll be a handful of laps at most for him to defend against Collar, but still anything could happen with these guys as first, second, third, fourth, fifth and then sixth comes steaming through. No more incidents to report actually. I'm just seeing a whole bunch of blue on the timing sheets, which is good, all the way down to Carl back there at turn 1. And Lumsden now exiting the final corner. This is exactly what Fellows needs as the white flag is drawn. If Lumsden puts a move on, which he is up the inside, goes Oliver Lumsden. He's got that move done before the exit. And Andrew will be thinking, yes, thank you. Give him a chance to stretch his legs, and look at that, 1.2 seconds. Tennis is not done yet, though. Now Collar returns the favour. Rubino thinking about it. He's kept a tight line. Oh, it's getting very close as they nearly go 3 wide on the exit. Steve Rubino is going to have a great run here, surely, on both of these drivers. Collar doesn't have the run, but he does have the preferred line. Jan Stichfree, Luke Lucchese, Willem Boyter have come together. And Willem, again, getting involved in yet another incident. And Jan just getting ahead of Paul Cowlishaw. That's Lucchese up into 5th. I don't want to cut away from this one, though. But I'm also going to have to cut to Holman, who's about to win the race, so we won't miss that. So Collar has got that place back, and he holds on to it. We'll see if we can catch that after the end of the race. Steve Rubino and Max Nevincharny coming together. Hussein is going to pick up the pieces, is he? I need to cut to Holman, but this is very action-packed at the moment. James Holman, though, comes around the final corner for RD Sim Sports. Exactly what they need in the hunt for their team's championship. Hussein and Max still going wheel to wheel. That's Holman who wins, closely followed by Ryan Ottens and then Johan Furi, the top 5. But let's go back to this battle. Fellows has got the job done. It's now over to Collar and Lumsden. Rubino and Huss going side by side. Oh, and there's contact, and there's more contact. Keep it clean, gentlemen. Who's that thinking about it? That's Howarth. Howarth has caught up in the end. He's going to get one more position before the line, and it's not going to be enough for the reverse grid. Hussein does hang on to that in the end. Howarth has got to be pleased with that recovery, but one more position there. He was only half a second away from that position, and he couldn't find himself on provisional, well, on reverse grid pole position. Wow, what a dramatic end that was. I didn't really cover the standings too well, and I'm sorry to Mr. Fellows, who I missed, but we'll give him the rundown now. Oh, that's not the right button. We'll give him the rundown now, as he deserves it. So, James Holman comes across the line. That is a very, very strong result for the team's championship. For RD Sim Sports, Ryan Ottens in P2, sharing the podium with Johan Furi in P3. Jimmy Vyman and Luke Lucchese the top 5, with Jan Stichbury, Paul Cowlishaw and Jeremy Chioka the top 8. Rob Sutherland and Willem Boyter down there in the top 10, with Wayne Douglas and Carl Jacquelet unable to finish the race. And for the AM class, it's Andrew Fellows, who for the first time this season gets himself onto the top step of the podium. That's been coming for Andrew, and I'm so pleased that he's finally got it across the line. He wins the AM class here at Hockenheim in the consolation race. Congratulations to Mr. Fellows. Closely followed by Dennis Collar within 1 second, and Oliver Lumsden also very close in behind, rounding off the podium. I'm sure those three will be very, very chuffed with themselves. Max Nevincharny, very, very sketchy at the end there with Hussein, as they got a little bit close together, and that unfortunately demoted Steve Rubino down there. So James Howarth recovers from the back up to P6, but just missing out on the reverse grid. So that will promote Huss, Nevincharny, Lumsden, Collar and Fellows all up into the mixer for this final race. Steve Rubino and Gareth Newton the top 8, with Rob Mackay and Danny Weir the top 10 for DXT Honda Racing. And Francois Brandet, the last of the finishers. Owen Seward not having a good night so far. He's 11 laps down. In fact, he might not even be racing, frankly. But he's still down there in P12. Okay then. So, we have a little bit of time during the warm-up, so as always, I'm going to take a short break and we'll be back ahead of the feature race here, the final race before we head to Portimao for the final round of the season. Okie dokie then, that is the end of the warm-up, and we are back just in time for the final session this evening. So let's take a look at the reverse grid once we have it, just waiting for the warm-up to finish. So, great news for Suma GP2 Honda. They have their man on pole position. It's Hussein Sadakadesla, closely followed by Max Nevincharny on the front row of the grid, Oliver Lumsden and Dennis Collett on the second row, with Andrew Fellows down there in P5, the last of the AM drivers. It's Willem Boyter in P6 with Rob Sutherland and Jeremy Chioka, the top 8, with Paul Cowlishaw and Jan Stitchbury, the top 10. Luke Lucchese just dropping outside the top 10, so all the hopes of potentially getting that race win looking ever so slightly harder now ahead of the feature. Jimmy Vyman, Johan Furry, Ryan Ottens and James Holm in the top 15 before we reach James Howarth, the man at the front of the AM class, and I believe we have lights, so I'm going to have to cut that short, but no bother. Hussein is going to be the man to get us away, and away we go. It's a great start by Fellows in behind, who's already past the flatline car, and he's on the inside line defending against Nevincharny as they all head through turn 1 there. Boyter through cleanly, Yain through cleanly. We've got Luke Lucchese, who's going to be on the inside line to Cowlishaw as we head down into turn 2. Hussein still leading the way. Luke Lucchese defending aggressively against Johan Furry as the entire pack safely make their way through the first couple of corners. Who's this with a little bit of damage, I think, on the front right? That's James Howarth. Is it damage I saw? Maybe not. But he has dropped down a few positions. Maybe a little bit of a poor start for him there. Hussein with a huge gap already. Nearly 1 second clear. The perfect start for Mr. Suma. And up the inside there goes Dennis Collar. A good move on Max Nevincharny. They do come together. That's going to invite Willem Boyter as they still... Oh, there's a huge crash there. What's gone on there? It's Luke Lucchese, I think, who's in the middle of it all. And they're about 5 wide. I don't even know how to describe what I just saw there. It was like a diamond on the track with Luke Lucchese sitting in the middle of it all. And, oh, there's been more contact down there at the back. Who's that? Lucchese does have that rear damage. Too much to know what to do with, quite frankly, there. Dennis Collar is defending for P2 ahead of Willem Boyter, who's just got himself up past Nevincharny, but he's on the outside line. Nevincharny in a bit of a pro sandwich at the moment, but he's got to stay with Collar and Hussein, who's already 2.5 seconds clear of the rest of the pack. And that's another massive incident there. Howarth is involved. Howarth, Rubino, Cowlishaw. Oh dear me. Lots and lots of damage there. Let's quickly jump to that incident and see what happened. It's Rubino who runs wide, who goes through the back of Cowlishaw, punts him off the circuit. And then Cowlishaw, wow, the velocity that Cowlishaw came back at there. That was crazy. Let's see if we can see that again. Is this Howarth involved here? Ah, yes, so Howarth is the one who gets collected. Wrong place, wrong time. Oh, God, yeah, that's not great to see. Let's see if I can get this properly. Cowlishaw into the barrier, and he just... That is some velocity, that. Similar to what we saw happen to Ashley, actually, in GT3, but not quite as glitchy. But still, you'd expect the sort of... the absorption of the tyre barriers to take the car and not to fire it back across the circuit. So that damage for Howarth, Rubino, and Cowlishaw. And Chioka went off the circuit. Wow, crazy. So... back at it then. Hussein leads closely, well not closely actually, 2-second gap to Dennis Collar. And it's Willem Boyter who is currently battling Dennis Collar for P2 on track, but leads the way in the pro class. 1.2 seconds to Sutherland. And then Johan Furry. There's some smoke down there somewhere. I'm not sure where, as that's a massive damage to the rear of the G-League car. And I'm also curious what happened earlier on when we saw that huge pack of cars coming together, but there's nothing on the timing sheet. Do I see something for passing Lucchese, perhaps? Let's see, maybe this might paint the picture. Let's see. Hopefully, as they go through the hairpin. Yeah, so Lucchese tags Yain. and 4 or 5 cars off wide, and then the 4 or 5 cars forced to the inside, and then all of a sudden that swarm of a pack. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Look at them all. Look at them all chasing after the flatline car, spread all over the track there. Anyway, that's the action over, and we just now catch Collar going up the inside of Sutherland, out of class, and slowing down a little bit, allowing Free through. Hussein still leading the way, and he's got a nice gap to Willem Boyter, who was only 0.3 faster than Huss on the last lap. Not quite sure what you're referring to there, Ash, to be honest. I must have missed that in all the commotion. Here he is then, Mr. Hussein, who I don't think has led a lap or multiple laps all season, so probably quite a strange view for him, but this will be great viewing for Mr. Bostock, who's watching on his little getaway, seeing that car and that livery leading the entire field. What a shot that is. So the cars come steaming through. We've got Holman here, who's gone up the inside of Dennis Collar. And Huss with a huge gap down to Dennis, actually 4 seconds now. So once Boyter catches up with him, Huss has just got to do well not to lose time and to just maybe let those guys through as they come through. And next to get after Collar is Ottens, so it all pleases Huss to see the pro drivers swallowing up his rival. When it's aggressive on the apex there by Collar, who pulls over to one side. I think he's got to slow down. Yep, he took far too much out of that, and Dennis Collar has to slow right down, which is great news for Hussein. That promotes Andrew Fellows into P2 temporarily, and there's that Yayin, yes, around the outside at turn 2. Wayne Douglas actually setting the fastest lap time, 19 seconds down, so he's been caught up in something. No incidents to see on the timing sheets, however. And Boyter has just got past Hussein. Are we going to see Lucchese next on Collar? Yes, we are. Let's cut back and see how Boyter got past Hussein. Just as he heads into turn 1, probably the optimal way to let Boyter through, and he takes the lead of the race, having held the lead of the class. And here's his teammate, Luke Lucchese, currently down there in P8. Now the pressure is on Hussein to minimise the damages as the pro drivers come through, and he gives way to Ottens first. Comes back onto the racing line, rightly so. And there'll be eyes in the mirror for Holman and Sutherland, who are also battling in behind. Collar and Fellows going side by side, and that's Lumsden getting involved as well, so 2 positions lost in a matter of corners for Fellows. Is that him with a slowdown? Yes, it is. He's now been passed by Jeremy Chioka and Danny Weir, thinking about a great position at the moment for Danny Weir, who's up in the top 5 in class. It's now Holman's turn to think about a move past Hussein. Is he going to go for it as they head through the Parabolica? And he'll be actually thinking, let me put a car in between myself and Sutherland, but Sutherland goes for it as well, and Huss obliges nicely, but he hasn't quite backed out of it fully as they now head on the run through turn 7. And he's still got that car, and he's now dipped out, Rob Sutherland, letting Huss keep a hold of that position. Not much happening at the front of either class. 6 seconds down to Collar. Love the sound of that Honda engine. Ryan Otten's actually the guy close in behind at the moment. Johan Furi, the fastest lap of the race, 2/10 clear of the man in P1. So he's currently putting him under pressure, and Otten's with a great run now. Is he going to look to make a move going into turn 2? Yes, he is. Oh my goodness. I mean, again, you got to slow down. Oh, and he's made contact. Huss just turned in on him again. But that looked very, very aggressive from this camera. And he does get that move done on Sutherland in quite dramatic fashion. Both classes really mixed up at the moment. Pretty much all the overtakes that we're seeing are cross-class. And we can see there Willem Buiter just leaving the picture. He's closely followed by Johan Furi in the battle for the race lead. Buiter also hasn't had a win this season, so we've seen plenty of debuts in the absence of Svidovic and Pentela. Just under 9.5 minutes to go then in the final feature race tonight. Is Huss under pressure from Ryan Ottens. Not very wide. Ryan's there, not a slowdown though, he keeps it going. Is Otten's going to think about a move? Yes he is, here he comes. The inside, and now Sutherland also thinking about it. Huss not giving up these positions though. His lap times are about 2 seconds slower than the guys at the front of the pro class, so he doesn't quite have the pace, but he's looking to put a challenge on Ottens here, staying in behind the slipstream, not wanting to pick a direction just yet. He's going to have to think about it very shortly though. Where's Sutherland in all this, looking around the outside. But Huss absolutely getting his money worth here for the position as things stand. That gap to Collar not coming down at all. So if the number 8 machine can continue this good work, he will convert his first race win of the season, I believe. Just going to go ahead and confirm that, I think. I stand corrected. Huss has already won twice, actually. He won the feature at Misano and the feature at Daytona, round 3. I think it was Daytona. Now it's time for Sutherland to get through. And Huss does back out, but he doesn't allow the G League through either. We've got Lucchese and Yayan battling down here as well. You can see that damage on the rear of the RDSA machine from earlier on the opening lap, but it hasn't hampered him too much. Defending now the inside is Lucchese and forcing Yayan the long way around. All of them getting it nicely slowed down. It seems painfully slow as they go down into first gear. Oh, and a little bit of contact there. That's going to allow Lucchese potentially through. He thinks about it late. He does move, and that's a turn in. Yeah. That's Lucchese round. Chioka punts Sutherland round again. Sutherland resets to the pit lane. That's his night over. Yayan was also involved in that. Let's quickly see how that happened again. Late move by Sutherland. Chioka doesn't see him coming. And then Yayan just can't avoid that in time. And then, what's that? Is that Vyman? Who, I think he just helped Sutherland around again there. Yeah, he just, well, yeah, I mean, that kind of happens. But unfortunate one, that's Sutherland out of the race then. He's reset back to the pit lane, and that drastically changes things at the front of the Pro Class. Although Lucchese still down there in P7, but that promotes the likes of Chioka, Stitchbury and Vyman up a handful of positions. And Dennis has brought back a couple of seconds on Huss, but I don't imagine that's going to change an awful lot by the end of the race. Here's Johan Furey though. The two South Africans of Boita and Furey going side by side through the Parabolica. Oh, and Boita there, switching it back. And he does make the move, and they do make contact, and you kind of think, what's Furey seeing when he looks in his mirrors? A late move by Sutherland, and that's an interesting defence by Furey, who, yes, it's aggressive by Boita, but it's well within the bounds of legality. And maybe he just wasn't checking his mirrors, but it's all fine. They've all come through the corner okay, but pressure mounting as Holman extends the gap at the front. Furey and Boita battle for P2, 4.5 seconds to Ryan Ottens, who, if this continues, could get himself up onto the podium. And look at that damage on the car of Mr. Stitchbury there. Let's take a look at it from this angle. You can see there he's got no front bumper whatsoever. Giving us a nice cheeky smile is the Euro Motorsports machine. That will not help his straight line performance at all, but it will help the cooling. It's advanced technology as far as I'm concerned. And he is actually gaining on Dennis here. Currently in P2 in the AM class, under pressure from P6 in the Pro class. And it could be Yayan now who thinks about a move, but that damage not helping him in his efforts at all. Heavy over the sausage by Collar. But Yayan doesn't quite have the run, I don't think, to make that move. Lumsden has just been passed out of class by Vyman, who's got pressure from Fellows, and who's that going wide? That's Danny Weir going wide at turn 3. And I almost lost sight of Yayan there. Under that rear wing of the Hyundai is the Honda. And he moves over to defend, but nothing giving by the Euro Motorsports machine. He's trying to get the exit, and he probably will get a good run as they head through turn 7. Let's see. Just 2 minutes to go. We'll soon be on the final lap. And this is all the pressure at the moment. That time come down to under 2 seconds, but while Dennis battles Yayan, that's not going to really change much. Yayan just can't quite find the grip that he needs with that damage, but it could be now. Is he going to make a late send? Yes, he is. And Dennis kind of holding it around the outside, but nothing giving there, and Yayan gets that position. Francois, unfortunately, had a drama. It looks like he's dropped it all on his own. Heading into turn 6, just carries a bit too much speed, pushing the limits. And he makes his way off and around the long route. Saying still actually in the top 5 on track, so as far as AM-Class reverse grid starts go. Doesn't really get much better. He maintained the lead of the field for a handful of laps before being taken by Willem Buiter. And then that collision has promoted James Hallman to the top of the sheets, winning, well, supposedly at the moment winning, his second race here at the Hockenheimring. Got Vyman, who's next to take collar, but he won't mind as long as that doesn't promote Lumsden up into the next position. Let's see from this man's perspective though. Dennis doesn't want to defend too much, but having to take that line, it's upset him ever so slightly. And we could see a change of position for the second step of the podium in the AM-Class, with the 42 being chased by the number 2 through turn 11. And here he is then. I think this is the checkered flag. Yes, it is. James Hallman, for the second time tonight, wins the feature race here at Hockenheim, closely followed by Johan Furey, another podium for him this evening, and Willem Buiter, potentially his first podium of the season, and Ryan Ottens coming across the line in P4. Here's Jeremy Chioka in P5, but this man, Hussein Sadaka-Desla, wins for the third time in TCR this season, and he gets himself up on the top step of the AM-Class podium, with Dennis Collar taking the second step, and Oliver Lumsden, another strong result to finish for him tonight. Andrew Fellows, who will also be pleased with his results tonight, back on the horse somewhat after a few weeks of misery. Luke Lucchese in P8 in class there actually, and Max Nevenchani coming across the line with that heavy damage, similar to Yayan. Glad that race is over for Max. Still with Cowlishaw and his Francois. He's stopped. Howarth, he is a lap down. Cowlishaw even further down, but he's about to cross the line and call it a night, with Rob Sutherland next across the line in P10. And that will be it for tonight. I would hazard to guess that will be joined by Mr. Fellows shortly. I don't want to predict anything. That would be embarrassing if he doesn't. But form would tell me that he will be here for a chat, so we can ask him how he got on when he crossed the line in P1. But for the time being, let's take a look at the standings and the results of that feature race. So for the second time tonight, James Hallman comes across the line in P1, closely followed by Johan Furey and Willem Buiter rounding off the podium. 3 South Africans in the top 4, with Ryan Ottens closely followed by Jeremy Chioka for G-League in P5. Jan Stitchbury, Jimmy Vyman and Luke Lucchese the top 8, with Paul Cowlishaw and Rob Sutherland the top 10. Unable to finish though was Wayne Douglas and Carl Jacquelet after the first race, the first corner. And for the AM-Class, Hussein Sadaka-Desla wins for the third time this season, with Dennis Collar and Oliver Lumsden rounding off the podium. Andrew Fellows and Danny Weir, actually a great result for Danny. I'm not sure if he's been in the top 5 too much this season, so he will be very pleased with that. Gareth Newton, Max Nevenchani and Francois Brandy the top 8. James Howarth doing what he can, but only a P9 in the end for the DXT Audi Motorsports driver. Rob Mackay, Steve Rubino and Owen Seward once again unable to finish the race. Appreciate all the kind remarks in chat. And we are now going to bring in some guys for a quick chat. Do the necessaries, as always. And we'll first bring in Mr. Fellows, I think. That would be a good one to start with. Okay then, so I want to make sure that everything is going good before we do so. And we'll bring him in now. The man who's had probably one of the best finishes that he's had in quite some time. Good evening, Andrew, mate. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. You?
Yes, man. Good. That was a very entertaining session. And I'm sure, as I just said, you'll be very pleased with what was some very strong results for you tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I needed it off the back of the last 2 rounds. I definitely needed some strong results, and yeah, come up on top. Got my first win, which was I was shaking towards the end, but I held on, so it was all good.
Yeah, I was saying we watched you cross the line on the penultimate lap. You had, I think it was Dennis right behind you, and then Lumsden did you a bit of a favour by making a move on him into turn one. That gave you a bit of a gap, and I bet that final lap was a bit more of a relief, but still, I'd actually thought that you'd got a race win, and I checked your results halfway through the race, and I was totally surprised. The guy, you've been in the top 3 for most of the season, maybe in the top 5 now, but I was convinced he'd already got a race win.
No, lots of seconds. Normally there was a James in front of me, but there was no James in front of me today, so I was all right. So I got that win, but no, fair play to Dennis. He was rapid. He kept me on my toes for most of that race, to be fair. And yeah, I was lucky on that last lap, as you say, with Ollie putting his nose up the inside, giving me a bit of a break.
How did you find this track in comparison? Obviously, only one more to go, which will be a tricky time around Portimao, but I bet you're glad to get those points in the bag before anything could happen around a circuit like Portimao. So good fun tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been good fun. First race was really good fun. I just didn't quite have the pace. I wasn't too far off a couple of tenths, but it was my consistency let me down in the first race, I think. But yeah, I managed to, I think, pull the P4 or P6, I think it was, which was good points. Obviously, the winning race too, which put me near the front of the grid, which is really strange because first time I've been in the reverse grid. But that was good fun for race 3, and I think it's P4 in the end. So good points haul, to be fair.
Yes, very strong, mate. Very strong. So looking ahead to the final race, and it seems as though it's come at us out of nowhere. You're looking forward to that circuit?
Yeah, I did look for my results. I have raced there in TCR before, so I've got some practice to do just to make sure I'm up to speed again. But at least I know which way the corners go. So, but yeah, just keep on plugging away and just try and get 3 top 5s and see what happens. And James has had another strong night with a P1 in the first race. Unfortunately, I think his race 2 and 3 were a bit more sedate. I think he got caught up in a few incidents, unfortunately. With the other James missing, Rob's missing, that's second and third. We're going to gain points on them. And me and Max are very close on points, so it could be quite interesting to see where I end up, whether I'm 4th or 5th in the morning.
Yeah, well, actually, and you're right. So I believe that Howarth misses next week and Bostock has missed tonight. So when we think about the drop rounds, I don't think you can drop the final round. So it will benefit likes of yourself and Bostock, I believe, somewhat. So yeah, you're still on for a top 3 finish potentially. We'll obviously have to see how the points stack up. But you've been there all season. You obviously deserve to finish definitely in the top 5, if not the top 3. So I think you're definitely got the form for that, looking ahead of next week.
Fingers crossed, and no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've just tried to keep it consistent, keep it clean, stay out of instance as much as I can, and that's how championships are won, I'm afraid. Not by wins, but by keeping it clean. Although, to be fair, James has won a lot of races, so he's got lots of points.
No, but that's the right message, mate. Clean, consistent, and the points will come. And you've proved that without a race win up until tonight, and yet you're still right up there. There's plenty of guys who've had a couple of race wins who are nowhere near your tally. So very strong and very consistent. So good stuff, mate. I appreciate you joining me once again, and I can't wait to speak to you again next week once things are all said and done.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you for all that you do in the comms box. It's been really good.
Appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much, and good luck next week.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Awesome. See you soon, mate. Okie dokie. So, very good stuff from Andrew, as always. And then we will go over to speak with the championship leader when I find him in the order. Here he is. So, we'll bring him in now then. He currently leads the championship and he had a strong race 1, but slightly less positive second and third races. James, mate, how was that for you tonight overall?
Overall disappointing because I literally have one hand on the trophy and I think I've just let it slip.
Well, I wouldn't say you've let it slip. I think there's still plenty of opportunity. However, I've just been saying, I said a couple of times throughout the session, I hope I'm not wrong, but you can't drop the final round, which goes against you. Now, it would obviously require Mr. Bostock to have a flawless night, I'm sure, after he wasn't there tonight. But I wouldn't say you've let slip. It was a strong result in the first race, and we saw you get caught up on the inside of Furi in the second race or the third race, I'm not sure. And it was a great second race, mate. That you know, you had the pace and you were putting some moves in, and if you remember on the final corner, you were so close to getting that reverse grid slot.
Yeah, I knew I had the pace, obviously, and after my little spin on lap 1, I just thought, get my head down, put in the lap times, and I saw them battling on the last lap, so I thought I may have had a chance, and luckily they were wheel banging, and just managed to get Stephen, I think.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine, but it will be very, very entertaining for me and for everyone watching. Plenty of support for you in the chat as always tonight. How do you feel about the next circuit then, Portimao? I'm saying it's quite a challenge. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, but it's definitely a tricky circuit.
Well, I'm missing it, so
that's why. Sorry, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So that's you done. Oh yeah, of course, that's you done for the season. Wow. Okay. Well, that kind of throws my line of questions out the window, but, you know, here we are. Yeah, no, good, mate. It's been overall a very good season for you, and I've just been speaking to Andrew all the same. I didn't realise he hadn't actually won a race this season, and he's just got that over the line now. But, as always, as I say, I'm sure you'll be able to... Will you be watching on, or will you be busy?
I'm hoping to watch on, but I'm no doubt busy. But whoever wins it, congratulations on them. It's well deserved. Again, Andrew for his win tonight, and I can't remember who won the final race. But like I said, whoever wins
us,
it,
actually.
Yeah, so whoever wins the championship outright deserves it. So I've done the best I can tonight.
Absolutely.
So fingers crossed.
Well, if you are busy, mate, then it can't be helped. But equally, if you want to hop in for a chat, you're more than welcome to, even if you haven't driven. Because if you do seal that title, then it would be good to have a chat, but no pressure at all if you can't make it. So, all good, mate. Well, I appreciate you joining us throughout the season, and it's been one hell of a race. I hope one hell of a season, actually, for you overall. So, fingers crossed we see you out on track again when we resume the championships next time round. But for now, I appreciate you joining me. And, yeah, you'll be watching on next week to see how the other guys get on.
Yeah, hopefully.
Good stuff, mate. I'll let you go now, and I'll wrap up here.
All right, take care.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Okie dokie. So, yeah, that kind of caught me off guard. I knew he was missing, but then it never occurred to me that it was his last race tonight. So, somewhat of a disappointing end. However, you can't really argue with going into the final round at the head of the table and at the front of the championship. So, we had all eyes on one James this week. It'll be all eyes on the other James next week, to see if he can overcome that deficit, and we'll have a good look at the standings before we start to understand exactly what Bostock needs result-wise to get himself potentially onto the front row, to get himself at the head of the championship table. So that's going to be everything for us tonight. I appreciate all the activity in the chat. That's probably the most we've had all season. So I appreciate that very much, and I'm glad that you all enjoyed. We had some good numbers as well. I think 23 or 24 at one point, which is pretty much more than usual. We kind of settle around 20 or so most of the time, which is canny. So I hope you've all enjoyed. I certainly have, and it's been a great set of races tonight as we head and look forward to the final round of the season, this time next week, around the Circuit de Portimao.